Hey, welcome to Captive Audience. I'm Sunny Danforth, and it is April 25th. So it is springtime here in Northeast Oregon. It is so pretty. There is a lot of flowers. The trees are in bloom, and tulips and daffodils. There's just so much in bloom. I've seen a lot of people today as I've been out and about with a lot of allergies. I'm very thankful that I'm not one of them. Well, thanks for joining me tonight. We're going to cover a little bit of the some news, and we're going to start. Right now it is budget time all over our state of Oregon. And hi, Lori, nice to see you. And it's budget time in the counties and the cities. That's just what's going on. And interestingly, this story from K2 News talks about the district attorney of Multnomah County claims that the Multnomah County chair's budget cuts public safety in favor of homeless services. And this story came out yesterday, and there's a lot of cutting going on. DOGE is having quite the impact in every state for many, many reasons. I'm not saying that this is why the Multnomah County is cutting the budget of the district attorney, because Lord knows the district attorney needs all the funding it can get. And the homeless crisis has been, frankly, made. You build it and they will come. And so I feel for people that are homeless, but we have a lot of homeless that have come into our state because of the policies of the Democrats that run the state. If you don't like the way Oregon is, you can blame Democrats. They've been in power for over 30 years, and it is those policies that have been wrecking the state. In fact, in Multnomah County and other counties, there's been quite an exodus of people with higher incomes leaving the county and those with lower incomes coming in. There's lots of problems. But, public safety is like their number one job. Homelessness is not. Law and order would help with the homeless problem. So apparently Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Pedersen has released her $4 billion budget proposal with cuts to many departments. And but the newly elected district attorney Nathan Vasquez claims the cuts to his department are more extensive than what the chair asserts. He says he was frankly disgusted by what he saw, and it's the budget absolutely does not support public safety. What I saw in these documents, quite frankly, are misleading. And public safety is the number one priority of government, actually, in my view. I could hear David going, "No, Sonny," I can just hear it. But it is about keeping us safe. But as we know here in Oregon, a sanctuary state, that is not the priority. And so Multnomah County is cutting quite a bit, apparently, out of their public safety funds. And the chair actually said that I made the decision. I was looking at the entire budget. I made the decision to move almost $30 million from general fund into our homeless services network. And she also says the cuts to the DA was roughly 3%. Well, I don't know. I'm just reporting. You decide. You can check out that story. And along with the cuts, the federal government is threatening Oregon transportation funding over DEI and driver's license policies. This story from the Willamette Week has, excuse me, I'm trying to get this to, so I can copy and paste it into the comments there. So thank you, Kathy, I see. So anyhow, what Lemon Week has a good article, she's saying, about the Multnomah County budget. And it's just crazy. So the feds, though, are saying, you know what? You're not cutting DEI. They're telling the states. And over our driver's license policies, Oregon is one of many states that offers licenses to undocumented immigrants. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy disapproves. And I do too. You know, when you get a driver's license, next thing you know, you're registering to vote because, well, DMV handles that. And I don't, so the U.S. Transportation Secretary yesterday, this article by Nigel Jacques says that U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy delivered a strict message to highway departments across the country. DEI policies will be a basis for denying federal funding to states, as will giving driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants. And you know, this is the deal. Listen to the words. It's undocumented immigrants can't get a driver's license. I've traveled a lot. I've been in many countries, and some would not accept my U.S. driver's license, so I had to get one of theirs as a temporary. But you know what? I always had to show my passport that I had a valid visa in order to get that. And this is what's not being done. It's no, come in with whatever fake anything you have. I'm sure, I believe, in fact, I believe I've witnessed that in the DMV office. I cannot prove it, but I do believe I've witnessed that. Oh, just give us your documents. Okay, and here you go. Do you want to take it in Spanish or English? Do you want to do it on a video or do you want to read it? No, a video. All of them said a video. Very interesting. Or, you know, by hearing and instead of reading. So many immigrants are very poor at reading, but doesn't mean they're, anyway, I'm not going to go off on that anymore. And so, so budgets are going to be affected. And quite frankly, I'm okay with that. But unfortunately, here in Oregon, they're going to cut public safety. You know, I remember many, many, many years ago, Greg Smith, that's my representative. He was giving a talk, and I heard him give the same spiel year after year. He says, you know, it's like a pie, and over half of it is public safety. What part of it should we cut in the budget? Talking about, you know, the budget of Oregon and him being in the number 2 seat of the Ways and Means Committee. He always, I believe, had done things that actually help promote raising up our taxes and whatnot. I do. So anyway, it is the argument. Oh my gosh, we're going to cut school funding. We're going to cut public safety. No, you know what? You cut out, we don't need to be paying. I'll tell you what they can cut out. They can cut out all the DEI. They can cut out paying for people that are flying into our state, being a sanctuary state, and then we are paying for their children being born, and or we're paying for their abortions because that's what the Democrats want to do. or those that are flying into our state or driving across the border, and we're paying for their sex change operations. That's the money you can cut, not public safety. But, you know, I'm conservative, and those are conservative type policies. So sorry, it is not. It's those are what they're doing is definitely the Democrat stuff. So with let's see, I wanted to hi Carol. Okay, I was reading your comment there. I was reading your comments there. And SNAP is under fire. This in Oregon here, this article that is on coin.com. It says SNAP is under fire. Skimming thefts and proposed cuts leave Oregonians struggling to feed families. And apparently, people's SNAP cards are being skimmed like a credit card. And last week, the Department of Justice indicted 19 people for using skimming devices to steal $500,000 in SNAP benefits from Oregonians. This is just in Oregon. Money then spent on baby formula to sell on the black market. Remember all the baby formula shortage there was? I don't know. I guess it has to do with that. I really don't know. But now the House Republicans are considering cutting $230 billion from the program over the next decade. Remember, this is coin. Might not all be true. I don't know. And recently, Nicole Williams was checking out at the grocery store with her two kids when she swiped her SNAP card and there wasn't any money. $900 was missing, and she was able to still pay for those groceries using her own credit card. But definitely it's going to put her at a bad spot for April. You know, the SNAP benefits you're not getting interest on. The credit cards you are. But this skimming's a big deal. All credit, anybody, your card should be in they sell these things all over the place that would protect your cards from skimming. All of them. Any card should be in one of these protective devices. Wrap aluminum foil around it if you don't have money to buy something that is for sale all over the place, that is RFID protected. You can just wrap aluminum foil around it. It'll do the very same thing. So times are tough. It's going to get a little tougher, I suspect. So this article in Oregon Catalyst was Representative Wright. There's 2 times the SWAT teams have been called for school pranks. And earlier last week, the hundreds of students, teachers, and their families panicked after an active shooter threat was made at Silverton High School. The school went into lockdown, and police officers from multiple agencies arrived at the scene only to determine it was a prank, also known as swatting. And, so swatting occurs when somebody makes a false emergency report to send law enforcement, often a SWAT team, to an unsuspecting person's home, school, place of worship. And I'll tell you, what some may see as a prank can quickly become deadly. And swatting is on the rise everywhere in so many areas. So Representative Darcy Edwards from Banks introduced a bill this session that would make swatting a felony in Oregon. And currently it is a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by 10 to 30 days. So if this passes, it would be a felony, and it would be punishable by 5 to 10 years in jail, and or $125,000 to a $250,000 fine, or both. But her bill uh, died in committee just 2 days prior to the swatting incident in Silverton. So now Bill Representative Wright has got a priority bill and is introducing a new swatting bill, and with Representative Edwards will carry forth and with the same upgraded felony charges. And I'll tell you, there has to be, I think, steep repercussions for these false reports, because law enforcement is being taken away from the multitude of other areas that they would be normally working on. Oregon is crime is on the rise everywhere. It's no joke. And to make a false report that's sending a SWAT team somewhere that can actually get people killed, shut down a school, going, oh yeah, we're going to get out of school early today. There needs to be consequences for that. And I'm certainly not not for that at all. So I hope that type of thing passes. And that is going to be House Bill 3969. House Bill 3969. It's a common sense bipartisan solution to a growing public safety threat. And public safety is what it's about, not this type of pranks at all. There is a bill blocking utilities from passing wildfire costs to consumers, and that has, passed the Oregon Senate. This is a story out of K2, Channel 2 ABC, and the Oregon Senate passed a bill that would prevent electric companies from putting part of the financial burden of wildfire-related damages onto customers if a court finds the company liable for causing the fire. And but I'm going to say, how are you going to prove it? The bill passed the Senate by a vote of 22-6. It now moves to the House of Representatives. I do wonder how they would be able to enforce that, but I think it would be good, because it is incumbent on the utilities to maintain the easements where their power lines run to help mitigate against fires. And also, they're not just maintaining the easement, but their equipment. There's many factors that can go with starting a fire, and so I think this is pretty good. Senator Brock Smith says most recently, court judgments have stated that there has been severe negligence and people have lost everything. So I didn't want these companies to be able to raise rates to cover their negligence. That's a good one. And Democrat State Senator Jeff Golden said companies need to pay victims of wildfires for which they are found responsible before working on shareholder profits. That's a very good one. We have to have some good news in here somewhere, right? We are in Oregon. There is some good news, and we'll take it when we can get it. Let's see. Do you think they'll pass the huge ODOT tax increase bill? That's $1 million question. Sadly, I do. Sadly, I do think they will, and that will be disastrous for Oregon. But maybe we'll get surprised. Everybody needs to contact their representatives, their senators, and voice your opposition to these ODOT tax increase bill. And there's $2 billion worth of bills that all have to do with transportation and of tax increase. And now they don't call them taxes, because then the people would have to vote for it. They're fees, a 3% tire fee, doubling the gas tax, that's a fee, essentially. Registration of your vehicle, and on and on and on. So it is, I'm afraid I don't have hope that it won't pass. I I don't. Something that, earlier I was talking about the SNAP program, and the USDA directs states to make sure illegal immigrants don't receive food stamps. And that's our tax money. People go, "Oh, well, it's the feds' money." No, it's amazing to me how many people have this disassociation of the feds. Yes, they print money, but it's our debt, and it is our tax dollars, and it needs to be spent responsibly. We need to, there were millions of illegals brought into this nation, our country, and they need to not be made comfortable. And if we remove their food stamps, that will help them not, and their housing. Remember all the things they were getting every month, all their hotels, and New York was going crazy. When they get uncomfortable and they'll leave. That will also help them to leave. But it is our money that should go to help our citizens, people that are here lawfully, and our citizens. That's my opinion. So this our article from the Epoch Times says illegal immigrants are not eligible for the SNAP program. Zachary Stieber wrote this today, and the USDA, Department of Agriculture, told states yesterday to take steps to make sure illegal immigrants do not receive benefits under SNAP, also known as food stamps. And the states must, at a minimum, verify the identity of program applicants, collect applicants' Social Security numbers, compare the Social Security numbers to the federal government Social Security death data, and check whether the applicants are listed in a Department of Homeland Security database as being in the country illegally. So for me, that's all good news. Keep cutting. Keep cutting. And it's the Doge efforts that is finding this type of thing. It truly, truly is. And that's a blessing. Well, the Republicans were holding town halls, and all of the Democrats were coming and screaming at them and whatnot. Well, now a Democrat here in Oregon, Representative Glusenkamp Perez, faced a vocal crowd at a town hall as questions flew. Hundreds lined up for her town hall, where her break from party left many constituents frustrated. So, yes, you know what? She voted for the SAVE Act, and the left, the people in her party, are chastising her for doing so. And, the left is not tolerant at all. They are so intolerant. And it's I can laugh at it because it's so easy to see how intolerant they are. And she said, Glusenkamp Perez said in a statement from early April, a written statement, "I do not support non-citizens voting in American elections, and that's common sense to folks in Southwest Washington. Voting in our nation's elections is a sacred right belonging only to American citizens." And and that's a good thing. I'm all for the SAVE Act, because our elections are sacred, and it is reserved to citizens, lawful citizens. Actually, even a green card holder cannot vote in our country. You must be a lawful citizen of the United States, be it natural or otherwise, having naturalized or born here. So she's finding out kind of what it's like being a little bit opposition of her party. Too bad. Too bad. But, maybe that'll drive her to our side. The more they do, there's a lot more Democrats that are actually leaving the party and realize while things don't necessarily look super rosy here in Oregon, just know that across the nation, there was a big shift to the right, a big shift to MAGA, to the conservatives, and it is still happening. There are more and more Democrats that are going, I just can't do this. When you have the Democrat Party, some leaders of the Democrat Party going to Venezuela, or not Venezuela, to El Salvador, wanting to bring an illegal, a violent, illegal back to this country, and yet they won't lift a finger for the citizens of this country. They didn't go to North Carolina. They haven't gone to where the other disasters are, LA, Maui. No, but they will go and do and drag. It's about the illegals. We're going to protect the illegals at any cost. And I'll tell you, I think it's because they're getting the marching orders from the Soros bunch, those that fund them. So they're just getting marching orders. Now, Lori, you jumped the gun on me because my next one is the judges. Oh my gosh. So, how about this story from the Epic Times? U.S. Attorney General releases details on the New Mexico judge's arrest. Court papers stated that suspected gang member Christian Ortega Lopez was living in a building on the judge's property when the illegal immigrant was arrested. And it's something else that now it's okay, Lori. You're fine. It is. Now we're having judges arrested, 2 judges for protecting the illegal immigrants in this country. So today, Pam Bondi, our U.S. Attorney General, provided more details about the former New Mexico judge's arrest yesterday for allegedly allowing an illegal immigrant and suspected Tren de Aragua gang member to live at his residence. He and his wife were both arrested yesterday and are now facing charges. And this is Doña Ana County detention. They're at the inmate booking reports released, by the Doña Ana County Detention Center show that Cano and his wife charges of evidence tampering. And Bondi said, "This is the last person we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them." And she said that of the suspected gang member and Cano. So court papers were filed earlier this month by prosecutors in the case involving this suspected gang member, Christian Ortega Lopez. Stated he was living in a building on the Canos property in Las Cruces, New Mexico, when he and several other illegal immigrants were arrested. Now, in the interview, Attorney General said that Cano took the Trinidad member's cell phone and beat it with a hammer and destroyed it, and then took the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. Wow. This judge, if you haven't heard, this judge is barred from ever being a judge again. And I would suspect that he will be disbarred. But he's been now ordered that and has now resigned. I think this one has resigned. But he also, Bondi added that Ortega Lopez showed signs of being in a gang or affiliated with criminal activity, including a necklace that said kill, and that said something about death. He also had pictures on his cell phone of 2 decapitated victims. Who keeps that? Except somebody wants it as a trophy. He also had pictures on his cell phone and he was sending them out to other individuals. The judge's wife, Nancy, is also charged with destroying evidence, adding that Canos gave Ortega Lopez assault rifles that belonged to her daughter. So this is a case of, um, I think they felt immune to any problems, and clearly they're not. So the New Mexico Supreme Court, meanwhile, issued an order earlier this week banning Cano from being a member of the state judiciary in any capacity, including officiating at weddings. So the now former judge shall never again become a candidate for, run for, or stand for election at any New Mexico judicial office in the future. And I do believe that this person, that he will be disbarred, and it needs to happen. You cannot be um, harboring terrorists, because Tren de Aragua has been declared a terrorist organization in our country. And it's not a good thing. So then we have another judge that is Wisconsin judge has been arrested for allegedly obstructing ICE. So a Wisconsin judge, this article is from the Epoch Times. So I'm trying to see what her name is. I have Judge Hannah Dugan. So the arrest, a Wisconsin judge, Hannah Dugan, was arrested on accusations she took extraordinary and allegedly illegal steps to thwart police from taking into custody a past deportee who is now accused of domestic violence. The arrest represents a dramatic escalation of tension between some judges and President Donald Trump's administration over the enforcement of U.S. immigration laws. And this case came to light today after FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi each released statements confirming that Dugan had been arrested. No one is above the law, Bondi said in her statement. And she was being investigated before the FBI, before her arrest by the FBI. She was taken into custody on the grounds of the courthouse where she hears cases. And shortly after her arrest, she has, she was arrested for obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency. And so she has appeared before a federal court to face a count of that. And she's also accused of concealing an individual to prevent his discovery or arrest. And let's see, I'm reading this. The judge said that she regrets, and the judge wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest. It was not made in the interest of public safety. Are you kidding me? So, and I do believe that she has now stepped down. So what preceded this arrest? Additional details are contained in an affidavit filed in federal court. In a sworn statement that was outlined by an FBI agent, events leading to Dugan's arrest and the allegations against the judge. This illegal was charged with domestic violence in a case that was assigned to Dugan. Federal authorities found that the defendant had been deported to his home country in 2013 in Mexico. After finding no evidence that he re-entered the U.S. legally, an immigration official determined Flores Ruiz should be subject to removal proceedings again. And clearly the judge says, "Nah, we're not gonna notify ICE and whatnot." So anyhow, they've arrested the judge. They clearly have him as well, and no one's above the law, not even judges. That just because you're a judge, look at you throwing away your career, right? Yeah, throwing away your career for an illegal. Well, this story I thought was really interesting. This is in the Epic Times in Epic Health. What to know about the two banned food dyes. And when I read this, I went, holy cow, I didn't know they did this. And I'm just so glad that we have Kennedy in there and others that are helping make America healthy again. So how do the two synthetic food dyes the FDA plans to ban within months affect human health? Well, it's unlikely that you would ingest either of the two synthetic food dyes, citrus red number 2 and orange B, that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration announced on April 22nd it will ban in the coming months. You'd only be at risk of the two dyes if you were to eat the peel of Florida oranges, which are often injected with citrus red number 2 to make them more visually appealing to consumers, or if orange B were currently produced, which it hasn't been for decades. Because it was no longer produced, there was no need to actively ban it. But now a food scientist and food industry consultant told the Epic Times the banning of these two dyes is fairly inconsequential. Really? The FDA announced that it would initiate the process of revoking authorization of these two dyes as part of its plan to eliminate all remaining synthetic dyes from the food supply by the end of 2026. And actually, I had no idea that oranges, and I wouldn't suspect it's only Florida oranges, although the story only cites them, had this dye on the outside. I know there's like a coating they put on vegetables, and I just kind of figured it was like that. So the FDA approved this orange bee in 1966 with a limitation that it not exceed 150 parts per million in finished food. It was a colorant limited to hot dog and sausage casings and wasn't permitted in cosmetics or medications. Studies showed orange bee and azo dye, AZO, was damaging to the spleens, livers, and kidneys of rats. The Center for Science and Public Interest asked the FDA to officially ban it in its 2010 food dye report, more than 35 years after the single producer stopped making it due to the carcinogenic concerns. So it's good that they're going to formally ban that, right? Orange bee. Now, citrus red number 2 is also an azo dye, only approved at a level of no more than 2 parts per million for adding color to the skins of unprocessed Florida oranges. About 1,500 pounds, enough dye to color 2 billion oranges, are certified annually by the FDA. Well, it is classified as possibly carcinogenic to humans, which is why it is only allowed for orange peels, which will not be eaten. Now, when I read this, and not for oranges that will be processed, how many people grab an orange and bite it to break the skin to start peeling it? I do that. I'm just asking the question. I don't know how much of that I've ingested in my life, But a study of 100 mice fed diets containing red number 2, citrus red number 2, for 80 weeks found that those given the diet 1% and 3% had increased illness and death. No effects were found at the lowest level of 0.03%. So they're going to ban this. And as early as, oh, this is interesting, plans for the bans. As early as 1930s, the azo-derived dyes were found to be directly carcinogenic. So why are they still using them, even as food coloring? And so there's natural ones that are derived from other things. And so I'm real happy. I'm real happy that they are banning this. And you know what? Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time that we just look at some fruit that doesn't look quite so pretty. It's okay. It's okay. We will get used to it, to being a little more natural, right? Oh, mystery meat, Lori. Oh, my word. Don't get me started. That stuff, the pink slime and everything that what's his name is cooking up. Okay. Another good news story is Doge says nearly 11 million Social Security records have been updated in a major cleanup. Doge has been conducting the cleanup operation for several weeks, and this is a story just today from the Epoch Times, and that is wonderful news. But yesterday, the Doge report of yesterday said that the records for millions of recipients aged 120 years old and older have been updated as part of a major cleanup. And another $1.4 million records are expected to be updated within 2 weeks. That's fabulous. It had been previously reported on March 18th that 3.2 million records had been marked as deceased. And, so Doge is doing some fabulous work. This is great news for us Americans, because I think part of getting their no Social Security number, this is no driver's license, no other benefits, and I would think no voting as well. What do you think about that? I don't know, but that's what I think. So let me post that one in there for you. In the comments. And then one more thing I would like to tell you about, to let you know about before coming soon. Put it on your calendars, something that I think you would find interesting, is if you have not heard of a group that is called the Oregon Conservative Caucus. It's a great group. I know many of the board and the founders there. And they are having, I've just posted a link to an upcoming event on May 17th in the Dalles. You can get tickets now. And they are to Steve Yates is their keynote speaker. He is fabulous. In fact, he is going to be talking about what's going on in China, and it would be, let's see, I can't read the whole flyer. It's too small. But Saturday, May 17th in the Dalles at Columbia River Hotel at 6 p.m. And so on that link is where you can get tickets. I highly, highly, highly recommend attending this. And and become a member. And the Oregon Conservative Caucus is what I'm going to say, a really good conservative group, Republican. and they're registering voters in our state. They're actively trying to get more people registered, because that is how we turn this state around, is through voter registration. And it would just be really good. So everybody, check out the Oregon Conservative Caucus website, get your tickets, and to the May 17th, it's their statewide annual dinner and awards ceremony in the Dalles. And I think it'll be good. Unfortunately, I can't go. I have got a conflict of interest. I would be there if I didn't, but I do have a conflict of interest. So everybody, listen, have a super weekend. Don't despair. And there's so many good things going on. And get outside. Spring is springing all over. Go out, play, go for a walk, get in your garden, mow the lawn, enjoy the time outdoors, and think about how I would ask you to think about how you can maybe reach some more voters, and talking to your neighbors, because we have elections every year. Every year we have elections. And people think, well, it's not a presidential election, I don't need to pay attention. Well, it's school boards. It's boards that are coming up, and that are going to be in May. And we need to, it's May 20th is our, I believe our next election is May 20th. And we've got to pay attention locally to who's running, and let's get some conservatives elected. So that's what I ask you to do. Because there's people can register to vote. They can update their voter registration. Maybe they had a signature issue. Maybe their for some reason their ballot didn't count our last election. I know many people. I've seen lists in our county of those that haven't fixed that. So there's always a way just to have a gentle conversation, a respectful conversation with our community members about voting and being registered. Have a great weekend. Like and share, and we'll be